Hi, Chris Kwan with Compass Real Estate, and today my guest is winner of 34 professional singles men's titles, the winner of the French Open at the age of 17, a Hall of Fame inductee in 2008, an entrepreneur and devoted husband and father, Michael Chang. Michael, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to ask you, what was it like growing up at such a young age and being in the spotlight? What was that like?
I mean, obviously, it's not the normal route that most kids take. I turned pro a little before my 16th birthday, and obviously to have a career at such a young age is a little bit mind-boggling. But I enjoyed tennis so much that I had the opportunity to turn pro. I had some really good results in juniors, and then some really good results in the professional tour as an amateur. So it was not like I was going in on the tour blind. So I think for me to have the opportunity to play on tour, travel around the world, compete in the biggest events that I've watched, growing up on TV for many years was really truly exciting. And I did it for 16 plus years and enjoyed every minute of it.
So what was that like when you were deciding on whether to turn pro? Was it an easy decision to make, or was it something that you knew that you were ready for at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was not an easy decision to make because it was not the normal route that most players would take. The normal route at the time was to, you finish your junior career, you go and you play in college for anywhere from 1 to 4 years, and then you turn pro from there. So for me to come, to not even, finish my 4 years of high school, and then to turn pro was really kind of unheard of. So I got a little bit of backlash from some people, but I think after the first year, not too many people were saying anything else anymore. After my first year, I was ranked 32 in the world, so I think it was a good decision to make, and certainly a lot of fun to be able to do something that you really love.
So you played with some of the biggest names in tennis history. You played against Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi. What were some of the players that you absolutely enjoyed playing against and just brought the best out of you?
Yeah, I think that our generation, was very special. I think what made our generation very unique was that we got a chance to play against so many great generations of players. So when I came on tour, I had the opportunity to play against the generation of Yvonne Lendl, John McEnroe, Jimmy Connors, Mats Wilander, the generation after that, which was Boris Becker, Stefan Edberg, our generation, which is myself, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Jim Courier, Goran Ivanisevic, Sergei Bruguera, and then the new generation after that, which was Roger Federer, Marat Safin, Lleyton Hewitt. Missed Djokovic and Nadal just by a few years, but to be in a generation that has the opportunity to play against so many great players was obviously a lot more difficult, but at the same time was really exciting to be a part of.
So one question I had to ask you, on your side, looking at it, I know that on our side, when we looked at you, you were such a big icon, not just for the Chinese community, but for the Asian community itself, because we didn't really have any Asian male athletes that were dominating in any type of sports. So from your angle, what was that like to be received in that fashion?
Obviously, it was very exciting. Certainly an honor to not only play here in the United States, but I probably felt it even more when I played in Asia. So for me to get the receptions that I did in China, in Hong Kong, in Japan, any of the Asian countries that I played in was really quite extraordinary. It was probably one of the most difficult things, I think, to play me in China and in Hong Kong, because the crowds were so behind me in all of my matches. It was a little bit odd because I think being Asian, like you said, even growing up playing tennis, there weren't a whole lot of Asians playing tennis. Nowadays, it's great. Now you look at a junior draw here in Southern California, and there's so many Asian names, whether they're Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese. There's so many Asian names now playing, and that's great to see. So, and I think that over these past years, players like Li Na and players like Nishikori have continued to play a very important role in Asian tennis and influencing young Asian players to pick up the sport.
And so nowadays you are on the other side of the spectrum. You're coaching, right? And you're coaching the #1 male tennis player in the world, Nishikori, right? What's that like being on that side of the table now?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Obviously it's a different kind of pressure. It's a different kind of sensation to actually, be there watching as opposed to being out there playing. I still think it's actually easier to play because, you're out there, you're in control. As a coach, your job is done. Once your player walks out on the court, your job is done. So, you can prepare, train, and you hope that once he gets out there, he remembers all the things that, that you've been working on, and you hope that his A game is there when he goes out and plays. Obviously there's a sense of fulfillment in working with Kay. I certainly did not seek a coaching job, but felt like, this was an opportunity to, maybe help a young Asian very talented player get to the next level. First started working with him, he was ranked about 15 to 17 in the world for a couple of years, and just had a really difficult time, breaking into the top 10. And these past 5-6 years, he's been in the top 10, and even in the top 5 as high as number 4 for the most part of these past 5 years. And it's been great to be able to be a part of his success.
So now that you've been a player, now that you're a coach now, so you're seeing it both sides, a lot of times what I get asked, and I think a lot of people deal with this, is just kind of mental toughness. They get hard down on themselves, and as athletes, it's very important to have mental toughness. What is something that you're working with him on in terms of mental toughness to make sure that he's in the right mode?
Yeah, I think the mental side is something that people don't see. Obviously, they're just seeing the physical side of tennis as far as hitting good shots and maybe some strategic things as far as where to put the ball and where to play. But the mental side is really what brings everything together. I think in many regards, I think the mental side is almost. It's a higher percentage than people think. I'm almost labeling it almost as like the 80% as opposed to 20% physical. And you may say, well, that's a whole lot, but it is a whole lot, because the mental side is a lot of it is if you believe that you can do something, then the more likelihood of you accomplishing it is there. If you don't believe it, no matter how talented you are, no matter how good you are, you're not going to be able to do it. So, I think your attitude, your perspective, how you approach things from a mental side, plays an important role no matter what you do, whether it's tennis, whether it's golf, whether it's any other career, your mentality plays an incredibly important role.
So we are sitting in a beautiful house here. We're in Coto de Caza, and we're sitting in the house that you actually grew up in, right? Yeah, so tell me about, what was it like living in Coto de Caza and living in this particular house?
Well, Coto de Caza, the community itself is beautiful. We've had this home here since 1990. A lot of things have changed since we first bought the home back then. A lot of roads to actually access the community back here in Coto de Caza did not exist actually back then. So Alicia Parkway, Oso Parkway, they weren't there. So a lot of times we would have to actually come through El Toro Road and drive all the way back to come back here. So in certain aspects it was kind of nice to have the exclusivity and the privacy back here. Coto as a community has grown a lot. They had one golf course back then. Now they've got 2. Both Robert Trent Jones Jr. Courses. They have 2 tennis clubs now. They just redid the new tennis club. Maybe I want to say in the past, maybe 10 years, 11 years or so. It's a beautiful facility there, and just a great place to live. This particular property is quite large. We were fortunate enough to be able to have the luxury of being able to build a pool, a pond, which is something that I really enjoy because I enjoy tropical fish and fishing. Obviously 2 tennis courts. The hard court is a court that we use quite often. The clay court was something that my dad wanted to add on there because I did spend quite a bit of time training for clay court events, including the French Open here. So it was great to be able to do a lot of my training here and at the same time enjoy family.
What was your most fondest memory of being in this home?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of, I think because of the size of the home, we've had a lot of, really great family gatherings. Oftentimes, extended family would come over here for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. For when we first moved in and there was no landscaping, we enjoyed a lot of the wildlife actually that was around Oftentimes we would sit here in the kitchen, eating dinner, and then because none of the backyard was actually developed yet, we would actually have families of deer actually come in the backyard, and we would just watch these families of deer, while we ate dinner, and it was so cool to be surrounded by wildlife.
So the home has gone through an extensive remodel over the last year. It looks like you've done a lot to the property. Does it look the same? Does it feel the same?
It looks very different, actually. Pretty much on the inside, everything has been done, redone. The flooring, the bathrooms, the countertops, the kitchen, a lot of the appliances. So much has changed on the inside. Original house has been painted, a few years ago. So even the guest house has been redone. The court's been resurfaced. The pool, the pond, everything's been redone. So in certain aspects, it does look very different. The style of the home now is different than what it originally was, which was a Mediterranean type of feel. But I think it's quite nice in how how it's been how it's been done, and the colors and everything I think are a lot more of today's style.